Explaining the Franco-Prussian War. In the 1800s, Otto von Bismarck was the leading figure for German unification. He had defeated the Austrians in 1866 and had already united the northern German states into the North German Confederation. But, as I stated before, he wanted to unify Germany, and to do that, he would have to get rid of the French influence in the south. Meanwhile, Napoleon III wanted to restore France's prestige over the entire continent. To do this, he would first have to stop the growing Prussian threat on the continent. Because of this, relations between the two nations were bad, and this would quickly escalate when German Prince Leopold was offered the vacant throne of Spain. Bismarck would get him to accept the Spanish throne. Meanwhile, the French were fearful of a Prussian-Spanish alliance. The French would send an ambassador to Ems in Germany to demand that King Wilhelm of Prussia stop Prince Leopold from becoming the King of Spain. King Wilhelm would accept these terms, but the French would attempt to push him further by attempting to get him to write a letter to Napoleon apologizing. Wilhelm would then deny these terms, later known as the Ems Dispatch. The Ems Dispatch would then be shown to the German public, albeit with some editing from Otto von Bismarck. The Prussians would become furious. Bismarck knew a war between the French and the Prussians was inevitable, but waited for Napoleon III to declare war first to gain the support of the southern German states. Napoleon III would eventually give in to the public's demands and would declare war on Prussia in 1870. With this declaration, France would go to war with all of the German states. France would be unable to stop the Prussian forces from crossing into France. The French army would be divided into two. One of the armies would retreat back to Chalon, while the other would be forced to hold their position at Metz. The Prussians would make it to Metz and lay siege to the city. The French would then attempt to relieve the city, but the relieving army would be defeated by the Prussians. This army would then retreat to the French city of Sedan. On the 1st of September, both forces would meet during the decisive Battle of Sedan. Both Bismarck and Napoleon would be present at the battle and would watch as the Prussians decimated the French. Napoleon, along with 80,000 French soldiers, would be captured during the battle, and when the news reached Paris, rebellions would start, and, at the end of these, a new republic was declared. Within a month, the Prussians would reach Paris and lay siege to the city. The new government minister would escape Paris via hot air balloon and would make it to Tours, the provisional capital, and would make a new army. This army, however, would be unable to break the siege. The siege would continue until January, and the people of Paris would be reduced to being household pets. On January 18th, German princes would meet in the Hall of Mirrors in the Palace of Versailles to crown King Wilhelm of Prussia the Emperor of Germany. Only just a few days later, Paris would fall to the Prussians, and peace negotiations would begin. However, many in Paris would be unhappy with the armistice and the new government, so rebellions would begin inside of Paris. The rebels would take control of Paris and would establish the Paris Commune, a revolutionary socialist government. The war was prolonged as the Prussians waited for the French government to take down the rebels, which they would eventually do. Once this happened, the Germans demanded that the French pay war reparations and cede parts of Alsace-Lorraine to the German Empire. In conclusion, the Franco-Prussian War would be the beginnings of the German Empire, which would become a European superpower almost immediately. This war would also immediately establish bad relations between the new nation of Germany and France, eventually leading the French to join an alliance with Russia and the UK, which would eventually lead to World War I. Thank you for watching this video on the Franco-Prussian War.